You are half asleep in bed, reading about World War I trenches and gas masks, when the room begins to shake. You miss the carpet and drop through cold, gray fog, hands over your face, with artillery thunder below. The fog opens over France. Trenches, craters, wire, and smoke. You have no uniform, helmet, training, or survival plan. The fog releases you only a few feet above a flooded shell hole. You hit mud hard enough to lose your breath, but not your bones. Cold rain needles your face. You try to stand, but bullets snap over the crater before your knees straighten. A white star shell hangs in the last darkness before dawn. The field brightens, and you freeze below the crater rim. The map in your book becomes useless. You remember one practical rule from the trenches chapter. Stay low and avoid open ground. You crawl with your face inches from the mud. Every few feet, you stop and copy the stillness of the soldiers ahead. A French corporal waves from the trench and points sharply down. You do not understand his words, but you understand the warning. Two soldiers grab your sleeves and drag you over the sandbags. You land on duckboards between boots, rifles, and dirty water. You lift your empty hands. No uniform, rifle, helmet, papers, or French. Their suspicion makes every missing thing feel dangerous. Someone shouts the corporal's name, Moreau, just before he forces your head below a burst of dirt above the parapet. A shell lands close enough to turn the trench wall into rain. Nobody explains artillery. Everyone folds smaller. You learn that a trench is not a clean line. It is a wet hallway with corners, smells, ladders, rats, and shaking men. Moreau points at your sneakers, then at the mud swallowing his heavy boots. You understand the accusation without needing French. Moreau taps his chest and repeats his name, then points at you. Your answer earns a doubtful version that is not quite yours. You copy everything. When the soldiers crouch, you crouch. When they go silent, you make your own breathing quieter. Your first useful fact is embarrassingly small. The safest person is not the bravest one. It is the one with the lowest head. Soldiers call a young runner Etienne as he squeezes past. A brass message tube crosses his chest, and his bandaged hand shakes. Etienne points to a canteen, then his throat. You realize thirst has a chain of command here too. You reach toward a puddle beneath the boards. Moreau catches your wrist before the oily brown water reaches your mouth. A canteen finally touches your lips. You get one warm metallic swallow before it passes to the next man. A gas rattle and fixed bell scream above the trench. Every soldier opens a waterproof M2 storage satchel before you understand what changed. You remember the pictures. Gas masks, sealed eyes, men bent over. Remembering the picture still does not put a mask on your face. Moreau pulls a reserve French M2 mask from the trench anti-gas store. He seats its chin pocket, clears the straps, and works the cloth around your beard. The mask smells of chemicals, damp cloth, and old breath. Air still exists, but every panicked breath becomes harder work. Masked soldiers climb onto the higher fire step. Others lower a gas-proof blanket across the dugout entrance instead of crowding inside. Yellow-green gas slides along the lowest trench air. Moreau keeps you above it and checks the leaking edge near your beard. After the all-clear, one coughing soldier lies on a stretcher. The bearers lift him without ceremony while everyone keeps masks close. The field telephone wire is dead. Moreau writes a warning, seals it inside Etienne's brass tube, and points him down the communication trench. You want the rear, not a mission. But Etienne is shaking, and Moreau orders you to follow because two bodies may keep the message moving. The communication trench is not safe. It is simply less exposed than crossing the field, so you follow Etienne through its bends. Your sneaker slips between broken boards. Mud clamps your ankle until Etienne braces against the wall and pulls you free. A shell strikes the bend ahead. Wet earth and boards collapse across the route, and Etienne disappears behind the falling wall. You edge along the firmer left wall, reach Etienne's exposed wrist, and dig with both hands until his face clears. Etienne coughs, writes the blocked bend on a separate slip, adds the time and his name, then places it beside Moreau's sealed order. Beyond the collapse, war becomes ordinary in the worst way. Ration boxes, latrine boards, ammunition tins, and men eating beside mud. Food is not a meal here. You receive black bread from an anonymous ration worker while Etienne guards the sealed order and signed obstruction note. The stretcher bearers meet you at the next bend. They do not ask who you are. They point your hands toward a wooden pole. You help carry the stretcher toward the rearward ambulance because standing uselessly would invite questions. The wounded man is frighteningly quiet. Inside the rearward Red Cross ambulance beside the support line, Sister Claire sees your modern hoodie beneath the mud and studies you carefully. She finds your phone while cleaning your cheek. Etienne shows her his injured wrist and mimes you digging him from the collapse. Etienne's explanation earns 1 risk. Claire wraps the phone under her bandages and covers your hoodie with a muddy French greatcoat. Boots stop outside. The military policeman from the nearby control post leans into the doorway, and Claire blocks his view of your face. Etienne collapses during the questions. His pouch fastening tears, the brass tube rolls to your shoe, and the policeman returns to his checkpoint as Claire calls for help. Claire steadies Etienne and points from his signed obstruction note to the support trench. The runner cannot carry the tube now. Hiding would be safer. But you watched Etienne sign and time the obstruction note, and a supply party may enter that bend if it stops here. You leave with the tube under your borrowed coat. Ahead, the same policeman has returned to the checkpoint between the ambulance and adjacent support trench. The policeman blocks the bend. You show the official tube, point back toward the ambulance, and say the only useful name you know. Moreau. He recognizes the official unit tag and numbered dispatch label outside the sealed tube. Suspicion remains, so he escorts you through the support trench barrier. The policeman brings you laterally into the adjacent support trench. It is wider than the front line, but artillery still reaches its crates and telephone cable. You place the brass tube in the support sergeant's hand. He reads Moreau's order and Etienne's signed obstruction note beside the telephone board. The sergeant accepts Etienne's timed note, stops a supply party, and redirects it away from the collapsed bend. Nobody thanks you. One reserve soldier rests a hand on the delivered tube and touches 2 fingers to his helmet. A runner arrives with a patrol warning. The support sergeant orders the gendarme to escort you back to Moreau before artillery closes the route. Inside the return trench at dusk, the gendarme stays behind you while a star shell and rifle fire warn that the patrol has reached the front wire. You keep both hands empty under the gendarme's watch and continue below the parapet. Surviving still means refusing the pose of a soldier. German artillery strikes the route between you and the front. The gendarme forces you against the wall as smoke fills the bends. A wounded runner points toward the last open branch. The gendarme drives you through while the next shells close the route behind you. At the collapsed bend, you take the firm left wall again. The gendarme follows your handholds and avoids the broken center boards. A deep side shell hole lies below the shattered parapet. You and the gendarme fold beneath its rim while impacts throw dirt across the trench. When the barrage lifts, the gendarme delivers you to Moreau. The redirected support orders arrive behind you, proving the message mattered. Another star shell exposes field gray soldiers beyond the front line wire. You stay below the parapet, while Moreau and the poilus raise their rifles. You never fire a weapon. The patrol fails to cross the wire, night rain begins, and your feet go numb inside soaked sneakers. Moreau gives you half a bread crust and points to the dugout floor. It is not comfort, only permission to collapse somewhere covered. You lie between boots and ammunition boxes with the greatcoat wrapped tight and the mask against your chest. Everything remains damp. You try to remember dates and generals. The useful facts are smaller now. Clean water, high ground during gas, cover, and who trusts you. Just before dawn, the shelling thins. You sit up as soldiers check mask straps, rifle bolts, boots, and the repaired doorway blanket. Outside, fresh mud covers the boards. A new sandbag patch marks the place where the night barrage almost entered. You wait for Moreau's nod, take one swallow from the ration cup, and hold it out for the next soldier. A returning bearer says Etienne's name and raises a thumb. Your phone remains with Claire, and Moreau still mispronounces the name you gave him. You look at the gray sky where the fog opened. There is no hole, bedroom, book, or route back home. You settle the mask against your chest, lower your head, and face the next trench bend without pretending you know more. You only know to stay low.